What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Everyday Discipline, where we decode, deconstruct, and reverse engineer self-discipline for you to get whatever it is you want in your life. My name is Brent Kokel. I am your host. As always, I love it when you guys are here on the show with me. I appreciate you giving up the bandwidth to do this. Do you guys mind if I just get straight to some shit today? Like just straight to it, pretty much. It's a short story, but really it gets down to it pretty quick in this one. So my daughter and her friend yesterday are making a cake, and they're making a cake in the kitchen because they like to bake. They're 10, almost 11 years old, and they like to bake. And I'm sitting there supervising so they don't make an absolute mess of the kitchen. And the cake worked out okay. They were doing it from scratch. It wasn't even from a box. Like, I was proud of them for doing that. But they ended up having trouble with the frosting. Frosting just wasn't what they wanted it to be. It was like way too sweet, and it was like really granular. And as it turns out, they used cane sugar when the recipe called for confectioner's sugar. Easy to mistake the two when you're 10 going on 11, but the frosted ended up not working out at all. This frosting was just like straight up out. It was like when you have too many Skittles. Skittles are good, like one or two of them, but then there's way too many of them, and it's not good anymore. And that's exactly the story of this frosting. It was that sweet. And so here's the lesson, guys. Details matter. Like, details really matter. Though we don't pay attention to them, do we? We don't pay attention. We think that they're little. They're very easy to overlook. For example, one of the requirements in my company is that every employee starts every email with "hi" and then the person's name. Like, it's that much of a detail that really, really matters. It's a small detail, but it changes everything else about that email. Because a lot of times we're sharing stuff with people that they don't necessarily want to hear, right? Or we are communicating with them about something that's coming up, right? And when it starts out as "hi," that it instantly disarms the person reading it. It changes the tone of the email. Like, the entire thing is different. And this is one example of a detail inside my business that absolutely must be adhered to because it changes everything. One word out of a 6-paragraph email that's a 2-letter word, which is "hi," changes that entire email. And so, yeah, the details actually matter. The details matter everywhere. We think that we can get by on all this macro shit and just think like, hey, this is where I'm going. It's all big picture stuff. But the reality is that the small details that are often overlooked are the things that will change the experience for your customer, for the other person if it's outside of work. It will change it fundamentally, these small little things that people do. So a good example is outside of my office window. From where I stand, I can see a Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is like basically a fast food restaurant. And one of the details that they've got there is that they've got people that are standing out front taking your order. Now, this doesn't mean that they don't have like the menu board where you could just talk to them, but people are standing out front there. And they're standing out front taking your order. And that's a detail for the entire experience that fundamentally changes the experience. It has nothing to do with the food, but it's the detail in terms of how you order it that makes you feel taken care of, and that has you coming back. Because in reality, a chicken sandwich is a chicken sandwich for the most part. If you work for a Chick-fil-A and you think that differently, then okay, that's cool. I'm down with that. I don't hate you because you think differently about chicken sandwiches than I do. Hope you don't hate me for thinking differently about chicken sandwiches than you do. But it's these details that make such a difference every single place. I think about this in the process of manifesting. So I'm a big believer that whatever we believe in is what is going to come to us. We can manifest whatever you want in your life, whether it's money, whether it's relationships, whether it's body. All of that has to do with the power of your subconscious mind reaching into the world, grabbing it, and bringing it back. And that's done through the process of manifestation. I do this every single morning where I will write out the big target that I've got in my life at the moment, which is like a 12-month target. And then I've broken it down into 4 quarters and those dates. And I write about what the experience is, like what happened, who am I with, how am I feeling about it. And I write these things out as imagined experiences of what accomplishing that little micro goal could be. And this is important in details mattering, because if I miss the feeling in one of the quarters, then it throws everything off. Because the reality of it is that in order to manifest the things that I'm trying to manifest, which in my life are significant, I've got to be 100% on point with each detail. Because one of my beliefs is that the way we feel about something helps bring the vibrational energy of that thing into our life. If you've read The Secret, you know what I'm talking about, but there's a bunch of other texts that talk about the same thing. The Secret just kind of popularized this entire thing. But not getting the feeling down one day is really a detail. Yeah, you could overlook it. No big deal. I just missed that one day. But the detail of it matters, because what happens is that if you miss that, then it shakes the belief tree. Because now it's like, well, I didn't do that right that day. Oh man, I wonder if this thing's still going to happen. You're shaking your belief. And because of that, the detail is going to make all the difference in the world. But again, it's something that we tend to overlook, especially as like the entrepreneur. Like if you're running a business, you tend not to have time for all the little bitty details. You just look over the top and you say, hey man, I'm going to take care of the big stuff and the little stuff is going to take care of itself. Most of the time that'll happen, but if it's something that matters, like something that matters to your client, if it matters to your prospect, if it matters to your employee, then there isn't a detail that's too small to escape your entire like field of vision. Because when you give yourself permission to do that, what's going to happen naturally, because you're human, is you're going to start to allow other things that were details that you used to care about to also fall by the wayside. It's like being on a diet and having a cheeseburger one day. The more you cheat, the more you cheat. You're going to have a cheeseburger the next day. It's easier to cheat once you've done it once. It's easier to miss the next detail when you let the first detail slide. And before you know it, you're going to wind up at some of those big rocks that right now couldn't possibly be a detail, but the more details you let slide, they become one. And when they become one, not so long before results that you really, really don't want happen inside of your life right there. All right, guys, I did want to get straight to it today. So let's just get straight to the action in this. Every episode we do an action. The idea is that this podcast, I want it to entertain you, but that's not the main purpose of it. The main purpose of it is to help you think, give you a lesson, and then help you act based upon that lesson. So the action within the next 24 hours is simply to ask yourself, where am I letting the details slide in my life? Is it in my business? Is it in my body? Is it in my relationships? Is it in my spirituality? Like, where is it that I am letting the details slide? And where am I no longer willing to tolerate the result of the details sliding? Answer that question, and I promise you, you will start to build more momentum towards the things that you ultimately want to create in your life. All right, guys, that's it. That's the show for the day, everybody. I'm going to do my job and come back next time. I want you to do your job and you come back too.